with your brother, you were in a band, and then you knew Kevin DeBro, didn't you, from earlier? And he gave you a call and said he needs you in the band. And was it a difficult decision for you to leave the band that you were in with your brother to head over to Quiet Riot?
Uh, Actually, this is what happened. My brother and I, we were playing uh, up until like 1974, 75 in just club bands. You know, actually, we left Florida around 74. We went up north to the New York area, a city called Utica, New York. And he got married to, uh, to our keyboard player. And they both, they settled down in Jersey. And I figured, well, it's time, they're settling down. It's time for me to move on. And that's what I did. That was like the last time that we were actually in a band in the pursuit of creating something for the music industry. We were, to get a record deal or something like that. So that's when I started on my own adventure that led me all over the place, winding up in Los Angeles eventually. And in 1977, I went to this club and I saw Quiet Riot perform, and I was very impressed. By then, I had been touring the club circuit in the United States for about 2 years now, and I had seen just the every up and coming band, and I thought that Quiet Riot had something that the other bands didn't have. They had a vision. A lot of bands, their vision was to be big in the club scene. Quiet Riot's vision that their impression on me was that they were already an arena band that was playing in a club. And I was very impressed with everything, especially Randy Rhoads and the fan base that they had created. It's very hard in a club circuit to create a fan base because usually in a bar, the club, the band was the jukebox, and the people went there just to hook up, basically. So and if you and if like the reason why my brother and I left Miami was because the bar scene became more of a disco scene. So we had to play disco, and we were not disco consciousness minded musicians. We wanted to rock, and so that's why we left. But once you got to LA, it was if you wanted to really be considered as a serious musician by the industry in Los Angeles, you could not be in a top 40 band. You had to write and record and make demos of original music, and that was it. Which meant getting some kind of job in the daytime, and then at night that's devoted to rehearsal if you have a local band, and most definitely networking, going to places like the Rainbow, the Sunset Strip, you know. So when I saw Quiet Riot performing at the Starwood, I bumped into Kevin after they finished their set. There he was walking around the club, and went up to him, and basically, I had no idea or qualms about, or drive to actually wanting to join the band. These guys, because I have my own band at the time, and these guys, they seem like, yeah, they're together, they're a group, things are tight. And anyways, like I mentioned, I was living with the band that I was in, so I wasn't about to uh, break my dedication to them, because we have moved from out of state to come to Los Angeles, so there was a lot of loyalty involving that. And these were my brothers, my friends. And so I just told him, hey, I've been around. My name is Rudy. I've been touring the whole country, and you guys are very unique. Just keep doing what you're doing. And that was it. A year later, I was out of town. I was in Jersey when this happened. Uh, they the first bass player in the band, Kelly Garney, he was out. He wrote the reason why he wrote about it in the book.
Yep.
So
Yep.
he was out of the band, and they were looking for a bass player. I mean, they tried everybody in town, but they were looking for specifically somebody that played with their fingers, more of a Grit Ridley or John Deacon style of bass playing, a little more R&B, more soulful, and that's where I came from, playing in Florida. And so I get the phone call a couple of days before I was scheduled. I had my ticket already to go return to Los Angeles, because the reason why I went to New Jersey is because I ran out of money and I needed to make some quick money playing clubs. I stayed with my brother and his wife, our keyboard player in the band, and got enough money. And okay, I'm going back. And it just so happened that I got the phone call 2 days before I was leaving, and so I just went over to. As soon as I got to LA, I went over and auditioned, and I got the gig.
And it was a really exciting band at that point, wasn't it? In like kind of late 70s, and it was spoken about at the same time as likes of Van Halen before they got their deal, and they're really two up and coming flash bands. But Randy Rhoads, well, he left the band, didn't he? Because tensions in the group and things like that, and he went off to Ozzy, and then a few years later, you joined him with Ozzy, didn't you? And it was at this point that it was absolutely crazy for Ozzy, especially his career rejuvenated. Blizzard of Oz was massive, wasn't it? So what was it like joining that band at that time for you?
Yeah, I mean, the only reason why Randy left Quiet Riot was because actually his mom told him, "Listen, if you don't take this opportunity right now, it might never happen again, and you just wind up being, you know, stuck in LA." Because what was happening in Los Angeles at the time is no no traditional rock bands, meaning, like what had happened before,
Yeah.
like the glam rock bands, they were not getting signed. As a matter of fact, those glam rock bands, like let's say Queen, they were like, they were going in different directions musically. A lot of bands were, because of new wave and punk, you know. And so we hit a wall. Record companies just didn't care about us. They called us dinosaurs. So it was just a career decision. It wasn't because of any personal conflicts with anybody in the band at all. Not at all. And so then, so Randy left, and he joined Ozzy. And meanwhile, Kevin DuBrow put his own band together, because at that time, Quiet Riot, the name, it was not being used. There was no Quiet Riot. It was DuBrow. And as a matter of fact, it did not become Quiet Riot until I came back in the group. And Kevin said, okay, now we got two guys from Quiet Riot. Let's call it Quiet Riot. Uh, there is a book that documents that. It's called Keep Keep on Rolling. It just came out, and it's the book was written by the Quiet Riot and DuBrow fan club president, Missy Whitney. So she kept all the newsletters that she used to write to the fan clubs, and there's the one for October, which is when I officially left Ozzy to return to what became known as the mental health version of Quiet Riot, announcing that I was back in the band, and from this point on, the band was going to be called Quiet Riot again. So yeah, and the reason why I did it was because once Randy passed away, I lost that Quiet Riot musical integrity that Randy was the architect of, the catalyst for it. I lost that in when he died, and I just lost the joy of making music, and I needed to find that again. I needed to find my home, and I get a phone call from Kevin right before I was about to leave LA, my home, to go and record the live "Speak of the Devil" record, the Black Sabbath re-recordings of of the Ozzy era with Ozzy and Brad Gillis and Tommy Aldridge. And I get a phone call from Kevin and say, "Hey, we're in the studio for a possible record deal. How would you like to come on down and record on Thunderbird, which is a song that he wrote for Randy when Randy left Ozzy? I mean, left Quiet Riot to join Ozzy." And So I said, sure. So I came down, and there's Frankie, who I have been playing with him since 1972. This is 1982. So for 10 years, Frankie and I, we have been waiting for this moment that we're actually in the studio. And I played with him for so long. We moved to LA together, tried to make it in the music industry. We were touring in the Midwest area before that, and based out of Chicago. And it took us by the time we got to LA, it took us 5 years for that moment of recording Thunderbird. And then of course you got Kevin, who I played with him in the original Quiet Riot, and then I played with him in Dubrow. I lived with him, and I knew most of the music that wound up on Metal Health, because that was written during the Dubrow period. So I just went there to do one song, and I stayed for 4 songs because we tracked really fast, because I knew the songs already from playing in Dubrow and Quiet Riot. The second song that I tracked was Slick Black Cadillac, which goes back to the Randy era of Quiet Riot, and then a couple of Dubrow songs. Let's Get Crazy and Love's a Bitch. And by the time I left the session, I was still a member of Ozzy, but I have recorded 4 songs, that wound up on the record. And so I go to New York a couple of days later, do the record with Ozzy, Speak of the Devil. Then I come back to LA, and I make the toughest decision I've ever made in my whole career, which to leave Ozzy, one of the biggest bands in the world. And they took great care of me. Sharon and Ozzy were wonderful with me for the Complete Unknown, which was Quiet Riot. But I knew that I got the joy of making music again. And as long as you follow that, something that I learned from Randy, having that integrity. It's all about the music. I'm a musician, and it's all about that. Of course, I have my family, and I have to balance things. I got to do the right thing for my family and keep my musical integrity intact at all times.
And you've mentioned Randy there. I know you've done a lot over the years to keep his name alive and keep his music front and center as well. And he still holds such an incredible place in everybody's hearts for his music and his ability and everything he brought to people and his joy and everything like that. And his music and his playing really does live on, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's again what I consider a consciousness.
Yeah,
that I learned that from Randy. I'm the only musician that got to play with him in both Quiet Riot and Ozzy, the only 2 bands that that of renown that people know of, and he actually made some Japanese recordings.
Yeah,
with the with Quiet Riot. So, and the more people know about Randy and what made Randy's music so timeless, the more they learn about his consciousness, the more they're going to be able to take with them. It's not just about the music, it's about the consciousness that created that music, that belief system, of having integrity in your life across the board, not just with career, but also in your whole life. Have integrity be your backbone.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of Randy, everyone knows his music, and it's fabulous playing and everything he came up with there. But in terms of him as a person, I mean, what was he like? Was he laid back? Was he driven? Was he serious? Was he funny? What kind of person was he? Because you obviously knew him really well.
Yeah, his demeanor. Okay, if you're going to talk about his demeanor, he had the demeanor which is what I really consider him, a teacher. Because even when he performed live in front of thousands of people, he always held the guitar and he played it like he's showing this is what I'm playing. It's not like, even though he was coming up with some, because he was coming up with some groundbreaking techniques the way that he played. So somebody else could have said, "Oh, I don't want anybody to steal, what I'm doing." So I'm going to move around, and no, he had a clarity. He always kept the fretboard, his fingering, his playing very clear, leaning the instrument forward so you could get a closer look. And so Randy, see, he's the only musician I've ever played with that came from a musical family, professors, not just musicians, but professors. And they built a music school, which is still operating. It's called Musonia. It says North Hollywood, suburb of Los Angeles. And it's when I think back of Randy, it's hard for me to to think of a time when he was not holding a
Yeah.
guitar. Let's say when we're flying, okay, we're on a plane, he's not holding a guitar. Or when we're going to the mall, he's not holding around. He's gonna grab it and he's gonna play it. And he's gonna be talking with you, smoking a cigarette, and playing that guitar. And that's where the conversation came from, you know. And so when I started teaching at Musonia, I got to see a whole different side of Randy, because before that, only time that I would see him was either at the gigs or a rehearsal. And a rehearsal was very structured because we didn't have a whole lot of time. We rehearsed the set forwards and backwards, and then we worked on any original song for about half an hour, and then we did it again the next day. Meanwhile, Randy had been already playing for 8 hours at the school. He had a lot of students, so all day long, that's all he did. He played. There was no distractions like social media or anything like that. No, it was just a focus on the music. And no distraction, talking, discussing, posting about politics or religion or who's going out with who and stuff like that on the internet. No, it's just no. We couldn't even think of a time where humanity was going to be experiencing that. This is about 45 years ago. So with Randy, it was basically when I started teaching there, it's like, I saw him play acoustic guitar, classical guitar for the first time. And I go, I didn't know you play that. And he says, yeah, it doesn't quite fit what we're doing with Quiet Riot. So I just play it when I'm here in between lessons. He would just, sit there and practice and read. He grew up with professors, so he went through the whole academia of music. Just learning the fundamentals and building on it. To the point that at his age, he already, he was teaching harmony theory, composition, sight reading, all the above, just like a regular, professor. And so that is a side that I got to experience and really became aware of his musical integrity, because it was unstoppable, and then everything else, how he carried himself, I mean, I've never read anywhere online any negative comments about Randy Rhoads. And he met a lot of people. He met a lot of people. He touched a lot of hearts. If a fan would wait for him after sound check outside the arena, he would always stop, talk to them, especially if they were students, like people who were learning, musicians who were in the process of learning. He would always answer questions. And as a matter of fact, I have a little story. One time we were this is the Blizzard of Oz tour, and we were in Victoria, Canada, which is Western Canada, around Vancouver in that area. And we were walking around. It was summertime. It was a beautiful day, and we were walking from the hotel to wherever everybody was hanging. The crew and the rest of the guys in the band. And Randy comes across this young man carrying a guitar-shaped box, cardboard box. And he goes to Randy, "Oh, you're Randy Rhoads?" And he goes, "Yeah," because they knew we were playing the following day, in Victoria. So he goes, "Oh, I love your music, and I've been listening to the record." And he goes, that solo in "Goodbye to Romance. Can you show me that?" Now, at that time, we had not added "Goodbye to Romance" to the set. So Randy goes, "Well, it's been a while since I played this, but yeah, sure." So he picks up the guitar out of the box. The guy, gives him the guitar. and he starts like trying to remember how it goes, and the guy goes, "That's okay. Here, let me show you." so, so he goes and he shows Randy how to play it. And Randy looks at me, he's kind of like laughing, and he goes, "That's the last time I'm going to give somebody a lesson in the middle of the street." And we just carried on.
Oh, wonderful memories. Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, I'll never forget that. That's great.
Oh, lovely stuff. And then obviously, like you said, you moved back to Quiet Riot, and at that point, Metal Health became absolutely massive. What was it? The first metal album to be #1 in the United States, multi-platinum there, and in Canada as well, and that sort of thing. It kind of blew up, didn't it? So, what do you think it was about that record and that time? It just seemed to click, and everything kind of went perfectly for it.
Yeah, actually, it was the first debut by consider a metal band, because we're talking 40 years ago. Metal,
Yeah, yeah,
we were metal then, uh, and yeah, definitely MTV, an era opened up. I mean, all of a sudden, and MTV did not have enough content, not enough video from anybody. Those bands were not. It wasn't part of the budget. Most of the bands were putting their money into getting airplay on the radio, because that's where you got residuals from publishing, and most record company deals included publishing. So the record company would say, "Wait a minute, I'm going to give you money for a video that's going to cost thousands of dollars, and we're not going to see any return in publishing, quote unquote." But what happened is they started seeing return in record sales.
Yeah.
That included the publishing, the mechanicals in it. So okay, we're good now. But they had to be shown that first. And our first video was for Metal Health. And that cost $10,000 to make. And then the next one, by then we had been on tour for a while. That cost about $40,000 to make, which was for Come On Feel the Noise. And that's the one that really broke the band, Yeah, I mean, we were getting played every half hour, which is more airplay than if you were on top 40 radio. Well, the only problem is that there were not too many subscriptions of MTV yet. But what started happening is outlets, like if you go to a mall, stores will be playing MTV on their screens. And that gave us exposure. And then, bars, like sports bars that had TVs would tune into MTV. So that really helped out a lot. Clubs did. And so for the next record, Condition Critical, Mama World Crazy Now, that was $250,000. And I got to add, even though the record company puts up the money, it was recoupable. So the band always wound up paying for that.
Yeah. And you were earning praise yourself. Obviously, it's nice to be part of a band that's going big and having platinum records and things like that. But 1983, I think you were voted the best bassist by Circus Magazine readers or something like that. And is that kind of nice for you to get the personal recognition as well as being in a big band?
Well, yeah, but not unless you just mention it, I don't even think about it. That was then. What am I doing now? That's my biggest concern. Well, that's what I focus on. How can I make myself a better musician? I mean, before we started this conversation, I was just on YouTube taking some lessons, about parallel modes in the blues.
You never master the guitar, do you? Never master it.
You never do.
You never do. You never do.
It's a rabbit hole in a journey, and it's like you're just going, you just you hit upon something, you go, what about this then?
Yeah.
It's just like it's an answer that creates another question,
That's it. There's always something else to learn. Absolutely. And you
Yeah.
mentioned Condition Critical and Mama We're Crazy Now and Come On Feel the Noise and things like that. So was Kevin, was the band, were you all fans of kind of that 70s British glam kind of movement? Obviously Slade and T-Rex and Sweet and all that sort of stuff. Were you guys fans of that kind of music?
Yes, and there were certain bands that stood out. You know, Quiet Riot. That's what the Randy Rhoads version of Quiet Riot was. It was a Sunset Strip version of glam rock.
Yeah.
And even before I got to LA, that's why we had the collective consciousness. I happened to be in Miami, but I was having the same influences while I was in Florida, and then later on traveling in the Midwest. My consciousness was the same as Kevin and Randy, who were in Los Angeles. So when we got together, it was like,
Click. Yeah.
Okay, we're of one mind, thinking about what we like, our musical tastes. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was, to me, that glam metal scene was as influential culturally and socially as the British invasion.